Listen carefully, because this is not a commentary on your news feed, and it is not an opinion about your party. This is a kingdom announcement, a constitutional briefing from the throne of the king. Corruption is not first a political problem, it is a principle problem. Write that down. When the invisible laws of righteous government are forgotten, the visible systems begin to rot. When standards leave, structures do not merely weaken, they disintegrate. A nation does not collapse because of one scandal or one headline. A nation collapses when its people abandon the principles that hold authority accountable. The truth is, decay is always the fruit of an earlier decision to ignore the seed of a standard. Until you understand this, you will fight symptoms with slogans and never address the disease. I am not here to name personalities. I am here to restore principles. I am not here to debate policies. I am here to uncover precepts. You must understand this. The kingdom does not run on opinions. The kingdom runs on laws, on righteousness, on justice, on truth. These are not religious decorations. These are operating systems for society. Remove them, and everything you build, your schools, your banks, your courts, your ministries, will shake and then shatter. Ask yourself, what holds power in place when applause is loud? What restrains appetite when opportunity is private? What guides decision when pressure is public? Principles, not feelings, not polls, principles. Let me define corruption so your mind stops hiding it behind fancy titles. Corruption is the misuse of delegated authority for private gain. It is the conversion of public trust into personal advantage. It is the selling of responsibility, the trafficking of influence, the renting out of your conscience to the highest bidder. Corruption is not only money in envelopes. It is a teacher altering a grade because a parent is important, a pastor twisting truth because donors are listening, an employee padding hours because the boss is away, a citizen exploiting a loophole and calling it clever. The problem is not only in the palace, it is in the heart. The problem is not only in the cabinet, it is in the cupboard. Say it out loud. I cannot protest what I practice. Write that down, because we will return to it. You may be tempted to relax and say, this message is for them out there, those officials, those elites. No, this is for you. Every person under the sound of my voice carries a nation within your influence. Your home is a nation. Your department is a nation. Your classroom is a nation. Your church committee, your non-profit board, your online platform. These are nations with borders and budgets and expectations. You govern something, you lead someone. You have been entrusted with delegated authority somewhere. So this is not theory. This is an audit of your life. What is the constitution of your house? What is the Bill of Rights in your office? What are the non-negotiables you enforce when no one applauds you? Because the fate of great nations is the aggregate of small governments called households, teams, and souls. When principles leave, the first thing that disintegrates is not the building, it is the boundary. Appetite crosses borders it should never cross. Truth is negotiated like a contract instead of obeyed like a command. Responsibility becomes a favor instead of a calling. And then, because the boundary is gone, the building follows, economies wobble, institutions crumble, trust evaporates, streets grow violent, and people cry for saviors while refusing standards. The truth is, society does not fall at once. It frays where conscience has been edited. It unravels where covenant has been cheapened. It collapses in the place where duty was replaced by deals. Hear me, because I speak to your future and your destiny. Authority is not ownership, it is stewardship. All authority on earth is delegated, and whatever is delegated is accountable. This is the foundation of righteous government in any space, the understanding that you are a trustee, not a tyrant, a manager, not a monarch. Until you understand that what you hold, you do not own, you will treat the public as your pantry and the office as your private estate. That deception is the ignition point of corruption. But when you know you are sent, not self-appointed, you carry yourself like a servant with a mandate, a steward with a report to render. Let's set the expectation for where we are going, because this is a journey, and I want your heart to be ready. We will not stop at diagnosis. We will travel back to design. We will open the blueprint of God's government, delegation, accountability, righteousness, justice, and truth, and we will measure our lives by it. We will expose how corruption enters, not in the glare of cameras first, but in the quiet of compromise. We will confront leaders and citizens alike with their shared responsibility, because you cannot demand from a president what you refuse to practice as a parent. You cannot require from a minister what you deny as a member. You cannot rebuke a judge while you bribe your own conscience. And then we will move by grace and with boldness from principles to systems, how govern people, build principle structures that outlive personalities. I need you to receive this with urgency. Your purpose includes governance. Dominion is not domination. It is disciplined stewardship. Be fruitful, produce integrity in your yard of influence. Multiply, replicate that integrity in your team. Replenish, distribute that culture until the environment is supplied with good. Subdue, bring chaos under order through consistent standards. Have dominion establish a climate where righteousness, justice, and truth are not slogans but laws. This is not theory. This is Monday morning behavior. This is what you say to the contract, to the invoice, to the password, to the expense report, to the secret conversation. So I ask you, what are the principles you will not sell? What truths will you not negotiate? What standards will you not dilute for convenience? Because the destiny of your nation, your household nation, your marketplace nation, your ministry nation hangs on the answer. The world is groaning not for famous personalities, but for governed people, citizens of the kingdom who carry a constitution in their conscience and a government in their soul. You must understand this. When principles leave, nations disintegrate. When principles return, nations resurrect. And God is searching for men and women who will make a covenant today to live governed, to lead clean, to steward authority as an act of worship, and to become the seed of national restoration. Write it down and seal it in your heart. My assignment is to be a principled person in a permissive age, a faithful trustee in a faithless time, an ambassador who will not sell the king's name for a bowl of influence. This is where we begin. Listen carefully, because this will rewire your thinking about power and your role in the earth. Government is not a human invention. It is a divine idea. Write this down. Government is the management of a territory according to the will of its owner. If there is management, there must be an owner. If there is order, there must be an originator. If there is authority, there must be a source. The earth has an owner. The heavens have a sovereign. The seas have a landlord. The truth is, before there was a parliament, there was a garden. Before there was a congress, there was a king. Before there were ministries, there was a mandate. Until you understand ownership, you will misuse management. Until you accept that you are a trustee, you will treat power like property. Say it out loud. I do not own, I steward. Let me bring this home. So your mind stops reducing government to parties, posters, and positions. Kingdom is governance. A kingdom is not a religion. It is a government with a king who owns a domain. He rules a constitution, which is his word, laws that express his nature, righteousness, justice, and truth, citizens who reflect his image, and delegated representatives who administer his will. That means government is woven into creation. It is not simply curated by committees. The sun rises because a decree exists. The seasons rotate because a statute stands. Creation runs on government because creation belongs to a governor. What the world calls natural law is simply the faithfulness of a king to enforce his will over his property. Now, if the king owns the whole earth and he is righteous, then any government that refuses righteousness is already illegitimate in principle, no matter how legal it appears on paper. Write that down. Legality without legitimacy is the camouflage of corruption. Return with me to the original Constitution briefing. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. Hear the language. Let them, plural, corporate, representative. Dominion is not domination. It is authorized stewardship. It is the king assigning management to his image bearers so that his character becomes culture in the territory called earth. Be fruitful. Produce outcomes that look like the owner's intent. multiply, replicate excellence so the culture spreads. Replenish, distribute resources until lack bows to order. Subdue, bring unruly environments under standards. Have dominion, establish a climate where the king's nature becomes the normal. That is governance. This was not a suggestion, it was a mandate. This was not a career path, it was your purpose. Dominion is not a license to exploit. It is an obligation to serve the king's interests on his land. Until you understand dominion as delegated, you will keep calling tyranny leadership and control excellence. The problem is not that people seek influence. The problem is they forget whose will that influence should serve. Now hear the critical distinction that will preserve your sanity in a world of spin and slogans. Human government is a system. Kingdom government is a standard. Systems can change, principles do not. Societies may arrange authority through monarchy, democracy, senate, council. They may write charters, revise constitutions, swap titles. And sometimes those systems are useful instruments, but instruments must submit to the score of the composer. When systems ignore the score, the music becomes noise. And the same instrument built to bless becomes a tool of oppression. That is why you can have elections and still have injustice. You can have courts and still lack righteousness. You can have 1,000 regulations yet be empty of truth. Write this down. When systems ignore principles, systems become prisons. Until you understand this, you will blame structures for what standards were designed to prevent. You will march for new offices while refusing all obedience. What then is your role? You are not a spectator of government. You are its delegated representative. You are appointed to bring the king's mind into your mile of territory. Your office is your Eden. Your household is your embassy. Your budget is your law school. Your words are decrees that must align with the constitution of the king. Leadership is not first position. It is permission granted by God to manifest his nature where you stand. So when you manage a team, you are not managing humans for your ego. You are arranging image bearers to reflect a righteous order. When you handle a contract, you are not negotiating advantage. You are protecting the king's reputation in ink. When you vote, you are not choosing celebrities. You are discerning which system best submits to unchanging standards, delegation, accountability, righteousness, justice, and truth. Say it. I am a manager, not a monarch, a trustee, not a tyrant, a representative, not an owner. Do you see why calling corruption normal is an insult to design? If government is God's idea, then corruption is not culture, it is a crime against the blueprint. It is management that refuses the owner. It is stewards spending the estate on themselves. It is representatives rewriting the Constitution in their private minds to justify public theft. And what happens to anything that violates its design? It malfunctions. Airplanes fall when pilots ignore laws. Bridges crumble when builders defy specifications. Nations disintegrate when governors abandon the owner's will. The truth is, corruption is not inevitable, it is preventable. It is not destiny, it is deviation. And deviated systems can be corrected when governed people reclaim standards and submit all instruments to the score. Listen, because this is where your purpose meets policy. Kingdom government does not cancel human systems, it calibrates them. It does not demand that every nation become a theocracy. It demands that every authority, however arranged, be accountable to the principles that precede it. Justice is not an option, it is a law. Righteousness is not a mood, it is a measure. Truth is not a slogan, it is the atmosphere where trust can breathe. Delegation with clear boundaries prevents tyranny. Accountability with real consequences prevents impunity. Law aligned with the owner's character prevents perversion. When these are embedded, systems become channels of blessing. When they are ignored, systems become industries of corruption with vendors, lobbyists, and price tags on the souls of men. So I challenge your mind and charge your destiny. Stop romanticizing broken machinery. Start restoring original order. Stop excusing malpractice as culture. Start enforcing covenant as normal. You are not called to curse the darkness with clever tweets. You are called to govern a corner of the earth so cleanly that your life rebukes the shadows and your systems outlast scandals. Write it down. I align my assignment with the owner's will. I will not call my office mine. I will call it his and manage accordingly. Because when governed people remember the king, submit to the constitution of his word, and steward authority as trustees, corruption loses its mask and systems regain their music. And as we move forward, we will expose how the first collapse began, not in a newsroom, but in a rebellion against the king, a constitutional crisis in the soul, so that you will never again treat a design violation like a normal day in the city. Listen carefully, because I must take you back to the first courtroom where corruption was born, not in a parliament, but in a garden, not with a bill, but with a word. The first collapse did not begin with stolen money. It began with a stolen definition. It was a constitutional crisis. The rejection of the king's decree in favor of human preference. The king established the boundaries of life with a command, clear, loving, protective. He gave dominion under delegation, authority under accountability, freedom under law. But when the citizen decided to act like an owner, when the steward pretended to be sovereign, the constitution of the garden was broken. Write this down. The first corruption was constitutional, rejecting God's word. So every national collapse begins as a spiritual rebellion before it becomes a public scandal. What happened in that moment? A citizen blessed with territory and trust crossed a line that was not his to cross. He took what was kept by the king as a reminder of governance. The tree reserved, the boundary established to teach that authority is always delegated. The problem is not trees and fruit. The problem is truth and trust. Until you understand that God's restrictions are protections, you will treat obedience like a prison rather than a passport. The serpent did not sell a fruit. He sold a thought. You can be your own source, your own standard, your own constitution. And the moment that thought was believed, citizenship was exchanged for counterfeit sovereignty, and the government of the soul collapsed from the inside. You must understand this, because this is where corruption enters your life, your office, your team, your nation. When a person stops thinking like a citizen under God and starts acting like an owner above God. Ownership without accountability breeds presumption. Presumption produces rebellion. Rebellion seeks secrecy. Secrecy breeds corruption. The anatomy of collapse is simple but deadly. First, independence from God. I will decide what is good and evil for me. Then dependency on appetites. I will follow what feels good and looks right. Then the deception of self-justification. I have a reason. Then the hiding of accountability, fig leaves, excuses, diversions. And finally, the normalization of blame. It wasn't me, it was them, it was the system. Are you hearing me? Independence from the king does not make you free. It makes you a slave to what you were meant to govern. The truth is, when the heart is ungoverned, the hands will eventually be unjust. Write that down. Corruption begins as an internal mutiny. It is the overthrow of the king's word in the court of your conscience. Until you understand this, you will waste energy chasing scandals while ignoring the rebellion that births them. Adam and his wife did not first build a corrupt institution. They first deconstructed an internal constitution. They edited God's decree to accommodate appetite. And once appetite sits on the throne, justice becomes negotiable, righteousness becomes relative, and truth becomes optional. That is how a nation disintegrates one soul at a time, rewriting the law to suit the moment. Look at the fruit, because the fruit will always expose the root. Immediately after the constitutional breach came, shame, the awareness of nakedness without the covering of righteousness. Then came fear, hiding from the very presence that sustained life. Then came blame. Finger pointing replaces responsibility. Excuses replace repentance. Then came division. Relationships fracture. Trust evaporates. Unity bleeds out. And then came forced labor. The ground resists. Sweat replaces ease. Toil becomes a new economy. Do you see it? Corruption always produces social breakdown before it becomes policy. Families distrust each other before courts fail. Conversations turn toxic before councils collapse. Brothers rise against brothers long before empires enslave strangers. The garden's expulsion set a pattern. When God's government is rejected, humanity becomes its own oppressor, and the very environment you were born to govern begins to fight you back. Listen, because I am after your future and your destiny. Many of you are praying for national transformation while protecting private rebellion. You want honest courts, but you negotiate with your conscience. You rebuke bribery in the headlines while you bribe your own integrity with convenience. Say it out loud right where you are. I cannot protest what I practice. The crisis is first constitutional, a heart that has dethroned the king's word and enthroned personal preference. The serpent's whisper still works today. You will not surely face consequences. You can define your own standards. You can be the exception. The moment you accept that lie, you stop being a steward and start being a thief of God's authority. Until you understand the law of delegation, you will continue to repeat Eden in your office, in your home, in your ministry. Everything you touch is a trust. Your marriage, your budget, your position, your platform, your vote, your voice. None of it is yours to own. All of it is yours to steward. The question that will audit your life is not what did you build, but whose will did you obey? Independence says, my will be done. Citizenship says, your will be done. Independence says, I answer to no one. Citizenship says, I render an account. Independence says, I can make my own truth. Citizenship says, your word is law. Which constitution is ruling your mind? I am challenging you with urgency because nations are collapsing in public for what they collapsed in private years earlier. Leaders who believe they own the office will exploit it. Citizens who believe they own the streets will vandalize them. Pastors who believe they own the pulpit will merchandise souls. Parents who believe they own the child will provoke and crush the seed of purpose. But people who know they are trustees, governed by a higher constitution, walk differently. They fear God. They tell the truth. They return what they borrowed. They confess when they err. They refuse the envelope. They reject the favor that demands a lie. They stop the joke that stains another's dignity. That is government. That is leadership. That is how you reverse the fall, one decision at a time. Here's the strategy within this diagnosis. If corruption starts in the heart before it shows up in the courts, then reform must begin with internal government, self-government under God. You don't fix Eden by passing new leaves. You fix Eden by restoring the throne in the conscience. That is why prayer matters, because prayer recenters authority, confessing, I am not the source. That is why the word matters, because it resets definitions and training your mind to call darkness dark and light light again. That is why fasting matters, because it subdues appetite, reminding your body that it is a servant, not a king. That is why obedience matters, because obedience is the liturgy of loyalty. It is how you re-enter order. Write this down and keep it before your eyes. Government restored begins with a governed person. Your life cannot be a lawless garden and expect your city to become a righteous nation. Be fruitful, produce integrity, multiply, replicate that integrity in sons, daughters, proteges, teams. Replenish, supply the environment with truth until lies suffocate. Subdue, bring your appetites, your conversations, your transactions under order. Have dominion, establish a climate where your yes is yes and your no is no, where righteousness is not a slogan but a standard. This is how constitutional order returns, not through charismatic saviors but through covenantal citizens. So I ask you today, will you end the rebellion in your own heart? Will you lay down counterfeit sovereignty and pick up your true assignment as a steward of the king's will? Will you return what you have claimed that was never yours? Credit for God's work, control over God's people, definitions that belong to God alone. The king is not seeking perfect people. He is seeking governed people, men and women who allow his word to be final, his spirit to be Lord, his character to be the measure. If you begin there, shame will lose its cover, fear will lose its voice, blame will lose its alibi, division will lose its oxygen. And the toil of corruption will begin to reverse into the fruitfulness of righteousness. This is the root. Address it, and the tree of your nation will live again. Listen carefully, because what I am about to give you will save your assignment from self-destruction. Authority is not a title, not a chair, not a badge, and not a microphone. Authority is delegated power to fulfill a purpose defined by the one who delegates. You don't own it, you hold it. You don't invent it, you inherit it. Write this down. Whatever is delegated must be rendered back. That is the law of delegation. The moment you treat borrowed power like private property, you cross a line from stewardship into tyranny, from leadership into lordship, from service into self-service. Are you hearing me? The problem is not that people have authority. The problem is that people forget who sent them. And when you forget the sender, you start serving yourself. There is a test that every entrusted person must pass, the delegation test. And it is not complicated. The first question is, who sent you to that place? If your answer is your ambition, your friends, your hunger for influence, then you will spend your tenure paying those creditors with compromises. But if your answer is, the king sent me, I am here by assignment, then you will govern with fear of God, love for people, and respect for the Constitution of heaven. The second question is, to whom do you report? If no one can call you and ask for an account, if no board can question you, if no mentor can correct you, if no spouse can confront you, if no law can restrain you, you are already dangerous. The third question is, what is the purpose of the authority you hold? If you cannot articulate the purpose, you will misuse the power, because power without purpose always gravitates toward private benefit. You must understand this. Real leadership is not about coercion. It is about inspiration. Leadership influences through vision, not intimidation. It moves people by service, not by threats. It draws out the best by modeling the standard, not by manipulating emotions. Manipulation is the counterfeit of leadership. It pressures with fear, purchases loyalty with favors, and punishes dissent to protect ego. When you browbeat a team into compliance, that is not leadership, that is control. When you dangle rewards to silence conscience, that is not leadership, that is bribery of the soul. Say it out loud. Inspiration, not manipulation. Write that down, because your future depends on it. Let's bring this home where you live, because this is not just for presidents and prime ministers. Parents, authority in your house is delegated. Your children are not your property. They are the king's gifts entrusted to your care. If you cannot be corrected by wisdom, by counsel, by the word, you are not ready to be entrusted with shaping a destiny. Pastors and ministry leaders, the pulpit is not a throne, it is a trust. If no one can ask you hard questions about money, morality, or motives, you are building a platform that will collapse on your head. Managers, supervisors, entrepreneurs, your staff are not your servants. They are partners in purpose. If feedback feels like an insult to you, authority has already become your identity, not your assignment. Public officials, the office does not belong to your family name. It belongs to the nation. If audits scare you and transparency annoys you, you have already started treating public trust like private property. Hear me. If you cannot be corrected, you are not prepared to be entrusted. Correction is not an attack on dignity. It is a guardrail for destiny. The truth is, delegation requires boundaries, or it will become predatory. Delegated authority is always bracketed by a constitution, by values, by laws, by measurable standards. The king did this in the beginning. He gave dominion and defined limits. That wasn't control, that was protection. He placed a boundary to remind the human heart that we are managers, not monarchs. Until you embrace boundaries, you will confuse freedom with lawlessness. Freedom is not the absence of restraint. Freedom is the presence of righteous order that allows purpose to flourish. Write it down. Boundaries protect the assignment from the appetites of the assignee. I want you to feel the gravity of this, because once delegation is misunderstood, the next stage is painfully predictable. The office slowly becomes property. Roles and responsibilities are converted into personal entitlement. The budget slowly becomes personal. The line between what serves the mission and what serves your lifestyle disappears under the fog of perks and honors. The law slowly becomes a weapon. Standards are applied to enemies and exempted for friends. And justice turns into a tool for revenge. Nepotism is explained away as loyalty. Favoritism is baptized as wisdom. Secrecy is defended as prudence. And a culture of fear grows where truth once stood free. This is how tyranny is born in homes, in churches, in companies, and in nations. Authority divorced from accountability. Power separated from purpose. But I did not come to condemn you. I came to reconstitute you. The kingdom has a safety system for authority, and it begins inside you. Establish internal accountability now. Let the fear of the Lord govern your decisions. Let the word of the king be your constitution, not your suggestion. Build external accountability as well. Appoint wise counselors who can say no to you, and you will still thank them. Put your processes in writing. Make your finances visible where appropriate. Schedule regular reports that you cannot skip. Invite evaluation before crisis demands it. If you are married, honor the wisdom in your covenant. If you are single, submit your plans to fathers and mothers in the faith who love you enough to confront you. If you lead a team, create a culture where truth is rewarded and flattery is ignored, where dissent that protects the mission is welcome and hypocrisy is starved of applause. Say it with me. I will design guardrails before I need them. Listen, because I am after your mind, your future, your destiny. You were not born to dominate people. You were born to master your domain under God and serve humanity with your gift. Influence that flows from integrity is the only safe influence. Authority without accountability is a loaded weapon in the hands of appetite. Authority with accountability is a tool in the hands of love. The king is still asking the ancient question to every entrusted soul, where are you? Not because he lost you, but because he wants you to locate yourself. Where are you in relation to your assignment? Where are you in relation to your boundaries? Where are you in relation to the ones who can correct you? Answer those questions now before your platform answers them for you. So make this declaration over your life right now. I am sent, not self-appointed. I am a trustee, not an owner. My power is borrowed for a purpose, and I will render an account with joy. I will lead by inspiration, not by intimidation. I will submit to correction before I ever require compliance. I will keep the office as a trust, the budget as a mission instrument, the law as a shield for justice, not a sword for revenge. Until you understand and live this law of delegation, you will be a risk to your assignment. But once you embrace it, you become safe, strong, and strategic, a governed person trusted by heaven to govern. And when governed people take their places, tyranny loses its teeth, corruption loses its market, and nations begin to heal from the inside out. Now that you understand delegated authority and the guardrails it requires, let me expose the 3 doors corruption uses to walk into your life, your office, your ministry, and your nation. Because corruption is not a random storm. It is a predictable intruder that looks for unlocked entrances. You must understand this. Hell doesn't need a battering ram when you leave the door ajar. The first door is appetite, uncrucified desire. The second door is silence, the fear of confrontation. The third door is exceptionalism, the lie that rules are for others while you are the exception. Write that down. Corruption grows where appetite is unchecked, voices are silent, and leaders think they are the exception. Let's talk about appetite, because this is not about food. This is about craving money, power, pleasure, recognition, comfort, revenge. Appetite is a good servant, but a cruel master. Appetite was designed to be governed by purpose. When purpose is unclear or ignored, appetite becomes your policy. Are you hearing me? You cannot govern people if you cannot govern cravings. The problem is not that you desire. The problem is that your desire sits on the throne. When hunger for more becomes higher than hunger for righteousness, you will negotiate principles to feed your need. It doesn't start with stealing the treasury. It starts with rounding an invoice with a personal trip charged to a public card because I work hard. With a private flirtation justified by no one understands me. With a temporary loan from the cash box that becomes a lifestyle. The truth is, corruption rarely begins with a large theft. It begins with a small permission you give yourself in the dark. Appetite whispers, you deserve it, and you agree. Appetite says, it's not that bad, and you nod. Appetite assures you will repay later, and later never comes. Until you subdue appetite, appetite will subdue your assignment. Listen carefully, because I am after your future. You beat appetite not by wishing, but by governing. Prayer disciplines your focus. Fasting disciplines your body. Accountability disciplines your options. Stop feeding the very thing that is trying to eat your destiny. Change your environment if it keeps igniting your cravings. Shut down secret channels that keep supplying your weakness. Submit your budget to someone who isn't impressed by you. Place your passwords where another pair of eyes can see them. If your appetite cannot be trusted alone with opportunity, do not let it travel without oversight. Say it out loud. My appetites are my servants, not my kings. Write that down, because your purpose cannot afford a stomach that leads the mind. The second door is silence citizens and institutions that fear confrontation. What you refuse to correct, you authorize to continue. When truth is quiet, lies get loud. When good people look away, bad systems look normal. Silence is not neutral. Silence is consent. Many of you are praying for clean government while creating a culture of secrecy in your own sphere. You tolerate late reports. You overlook missed standards. You laugh off crude jokes. You excuse small dishonors because you don't want to seem difficult. And slowly, the organization learns the unwritten law. We don't confront, we cope. Hear me. A culture that whispers in private and applauds in public is an incubator for corruption. If mentors refuse to mentor with truth, protégés will master misconduct. If boards refuse to ask hard questions, budgets will grow fat with waste. If congregations reward charisma and ignore character, pulpits will mutate into platforms for manipulation. Are you getting this? Until you understand that love confronts, you will confuse peacekeeping with peacemaking. Peacemakers do not ignore fractures. They set bones. They apply pressure to promote healing. They say no, even when yes keeps the room happy. Silence always costs more later than truth costs now. Write it down. Correction is cheaper than collapse. Establish policies where dissent that protects the mission is honored. Where whistleblowers are shielded, not sacrificed. Where minutes reflect what was actually said. Where records are kept. Where audits are normal. Where questions are welcome, not punished. Parents, don't laugh at what you should limit. Pastors, don't spiritualize what you should scrutinize. Managers, don't delay what you should document. Citizens, don't shout online and whisper in real meetings. Use your voice strategically clear, respectful, consistent, courageous, because the absence of courageous voices gives appetites a megaphone. The third door is exceptionalism, the arrogance that baptizes compromise. Exceptionalism says, yes, that is the rule, but I am different. Yes, that is the policy, but I'm under pressure. Yes, that is the law, but my case is special. This is how leaders become dangerous. They begin with service, they grow with sacrifice, and then somewhere along the path, entitlement sneaks in wearing a robe of honor. The event calls it a perk. The followers call it a blessing. The culture calls it respect, but the conscience knows it as a carving of a private altar. Exceptionalism turns boundaries into suggestions. It teaches you to measure yourself by your intentions and everyone else by their actions. It allows the pastor to avoid financial review because I am anointed. It allows the official to bypass procurement rules because I am efficient. It allows the father to justify harshness because I am providing. Are you seeing the pattern? Small compromises repeated by admired people become national culture. Before long, nations rename corruption. Networking, rename bribery. Appreciation, rename nepotism. Family values, rename false reporting. Spin. And the people suffer under the weight of rebranded sin. The remedy begins with humility, the return to citizenship under God. Tell yourself the truth. You are not the exception, you are the example. Write that down. Leaders, you teach more by what you accept than by what you announce. Citizens, You train your environment by what you reward. If you want a nation to become clean, stop applauding dirty success. Stop electing entertainers and calling them leaders. Stop financing platforms that sell your conscience back to you with a smile. Stop excusing your own shortcuts because your intentions were good. The kingdom standard is one law for all righteousness, justice, and truth applied without favoritism. That is why we build systems that do not trust personalities but test them. Clear conflict of interest rules, rotation of duties, two-signature approvals, open contracting, public reporting, independent reviews, timelines that are enforced, clarity that is written, consequences that are predictable. This is not legalism. This is love, protecting people from the seduction of privilege. Let me show you the progression so you can interrupt it. It starts with appetite, proposing a small exception, silence, protecting it from light, and exceptionalism, branding it as deserved. One unreceipted expense becomes a habit. One compliment traded for a favor becomes a network. One adjusted statistic becomes a narrative. One ignored red flag becomes a scandal. And then everyone acts surprised, as if houses don't collapse from termites working daily in the dark. The truth is, little foxes spoil vineyards. Tiny hinges swing big doors. Small decisions steer great destinies. So ask yourself now, where are the small allowances in your life that are big enough to sink your future? Who do you need to call this week to confess and correct? What policy must you put in writing before your memory edits it? What conversation must you have with your team to end the culture of silent discomfort and start the culture of courageous clarity? Hear the hope inside this rebuke. If corruption has doors, then the kingdom has gates. Gates are not decorative, they are defensive and decisive. Gratitude is a gate when your heart is thankful. Entitlement dies and exceptionalism loses its grip. Truth is a gate when facts are honored and lies are costly. Silence becomes rare. Discipline is a gate when appetites are trained by prayer, fasting, and accountability. Cravings come to heal. Justice is a gate when consequences are certain and consistent. Corruption cannot predict immunity. Righteousness is a gate when personal purity is prized above public applause. Compromise becomes expensive. And wisdom is a gate. Policies, processes, and practices that bake virtue into the operation so that even weak people are carried by strong systems. Say it out loud. I will build gates around my life. Write it down. My house will have gates. My company will have gates. My ministry will have gates. My city will have gates. I am commissioning your conscience now. Close the door of appetite. Submit your desires to the King daily. Close the door of silence. Open your mouth with grace and truth where God has given you influence. Close the door of exceptionalism. Place yourself under the same standards you preach. Because when governed people build gated lives, corruption loses access. And when enough of us build in this way, nations begin to breathe again. This is exposure, not for shame, but for strategy. The intruder is identified. Now, by the Spirit's help and by practical obedience, we will fortify the gates and secure the future that your destiny deserves. Listen carefully, because I am about to give you the constitution behind every stable nation. You must understand this. Nations are not held together by flags and anthems. They are held together by operating laws that do not bend for personalities. The throne is established by righteousness, not by charisma. The land is secured by justice, not by slogans. And the future is protected by truth, not by spin. Write that down. Until you understand that righteousness, justice, and truth are not sermon words, but system codes, you will keep praying for what your policies are canceling. The wisdom of Proverbs says the nation is exalted by righteousness and torn down by the greed of bribes. It teaches that a king builds stability through justice. Are you hearing me? Stability is not a miracle. It is the fruit of non-negotiable principles turned into daily practice. Let me begin with righteousness, because religion has confused you. Righteousness is not a churchy accent or a public show of spirituality. Righteousness is right alignment with the standards of the King, revealed in His Word and reflected in how you make decisions, how you write budgets, how you treat the vulnerable, how you handle what is not yours. Righteousness is measurable. It can be audited. It shows up in whether widows can access their benefits without paying a fee to the gatekeeper, whether orphans are protected instead of processed, whether strangers are welcomed with clarity instead of exploited with confusion, whether workers receive wages on time without facilitation cost. Righteousness looks like contracts honored when the cameras leave, invoices paid without kickbacks, taxes collected without harassment, procurement conducted with integrity instead of its secret lists. Write this down. Righteousness moves from piety to policy, from devotion to distribution, from prayer to practice. The problem is not that people pray. The problem is that they refuse to let their prayer life write their procedures. The truth is, if your worship on Sunday does not change your spreadsheet on Monday, you are religious but not righteous. Righteousness sets the plumb line for leadership. It tells the leader, you are a trustee, not an owner. You are a servant of purpose, not a consumer of privilege. You protect the poor. You constrain your appetites. You fear the Lord more than you fear the polls. Righteousness means you do not pass laws that legalize what God calls evil and then expect peace to live in your streets. Righteousness means you do not call theft innovation, dishonesty strategy, oppression order, or seduction marketing. It means your moral compass is not for sale to the highest donor or the loudest lobby. Are you getting this? When righteousness governs, the nation breathes. When righteousness is traded for religiosity, the nation suffocates under hypocrisy, decorated with prayer meetings. Now, justice is not anger in the streets. Justice is architecture in the courts, consistency in enforcement, and impartiality in process. Justice is the fair application of law without favoritism. When a nation has justice, the scales measure facts, not faces. The gavel responds to evidence, not envelopes. The process is predictable. The outcomes are respected. And the weak are not crushed because they lack connections. Corruption is partiality with a price tag. Write that down. The moment money, tribe, party, or personality can tilt the scales, justice has been kidnapped and stability has been taken hostage. Proverbs declares that bribery tears down a land. Why? Because bribes displace standard with speculation. No one knows what the law will mean tomorrow because someone can buy a different meaning today. Then contracts escalate their prices to hedge against uncertainty. Business slows to a crawl. Entrepreneurs relocate, and citizens mimic the courts by practicing selective obedience. Justice must be a system, not a mood. That means laws are clear, not cryptic, published, not whispered, applied, not suggested. It means case assignment is random, not arranged by favors. It means prosecutors are protected from political punishment when they follow evidence. It means judges disclose conflicts and recuse themselves without being begged. It means sentencing guidelines are public. It means appeals are timely. It means the police are trained, restrained, and reviewed. It means detention is not punishment without trial. It means fines do not become fundraising tools. Are you listening? Justice is a machine that must be oiled with transparency and calibrated with accountability. If you want peace in the streets, you must build predictability in the courts. If you want investors to risk their capital, you must guarantee that their contracts stand higher than your cousin's phone call. And truth is not just a moral virtue. Truth is national infrastructure. Roads carry cars, but truth carries trust. When truth is negotiable, every bridge is suspect, every report is propaganda, every promise is a performance, and every institution bleeds credibility. Lies are termites in the beams of a country. You do not see the damage until the house falls. The moment truth is optional, contracts become unstable because both parties are waiting for the trick. Data becomes decoration because numbers can be massaged. Budgets become theater because the deficit can hide behind smiles. Statistics become weapons, and the citizen learns a deadly lesson. We survive by spin. Hear me. You cannot build a future on fiction. Write it down. Truth is cheaper than lies in the long run. Lies multiply costs, audit costs, security costs, opportunity costs, dignity costs. Truth reduces friction. Meetings are shorter, negotiations are simpler, corrections are quicker, progress is faster, because everyone knows the rules and believes the records. Truth as infrastructure means minutes match what was said, not what is safe. It means procurement records cannot be edited after the fact. It means budgets are published with line items, not only summaries with smiles. It means the press can ask hard questions without being punished. It means access to information is a right with timelines, not a favor with delays. It means whistleblowers are protected by law and honored by culture. This is not idealism. This is engineering. Bridges do not stand because of wishes. They stand because of laws honored. Nations do not stand because of anthems. They stand because truth is costly to violate. Now, let me pull these three cords together and tie them to your daily operations, because this blueprint is useless if it remains poetic. Righteousness must shape budgets, priorities that favor the common good over private indulgence, clear ceilings on perks, timely payments to suppliers, reserve funds guarded from raids. Justice must govern appointments, criteria published before selection, interviews documented, panels diversified and trained, conflicts disclosed, tenure tied to performance with humane due process. Truth must underpin contracts, deliverables, specific penalties, predictable variations, transparent, progress reports, factual, audits, independent and regular. Enforcement must marry all three penalties applied without regard to status, restitution, prioritized for victims, rehabilitation available for offenders, and public reporting of outcomes, so the nation learns that laws are living things. Are you hearing this? This is not about being nice. This is about being governed. Leaders, listen. Your charisma is a gift, but it is not a constitution. Do not ask your nation to trust your smile. Ask them to trust your systems. Citizens, listen. Do not applaud strong men who promise shortcuts. Demand strong laws that restrain everyone, including your favorite. Parents, pastors, principals, managers, apply these three in your micronations. If righteousness is policy at home, justice is the process at work, and truth is the language in your meetings, you will make corruption unemployed in your circle, and circles become cities. Say it with me. Righteousness will be my standard. Justice will be my system. Truth will be my infrastructure. Write it down. Until you engrave these into your conscience and encode them into your operations, you will admire stability from afar and experience chaos up close. But when you build this constitution into your life and demand it in your institutions, the king will establish your house, your enterprise will gain respect, your city will find its footing, and your nation will grow old in peace. Listen carefully, because we have reached the hinge of the whole matter. Systems are strong, but people run systems. Laws are righteous, but hearts execute laws. You must understand this. The currency of trust is not charisma, not credentials, not connections. The currency of trust is character. Write that down. Character is the ability to be trusted with power when no one is watching and when everyone is watching, when the pressure is heavy and when the perks are many, when the offer is tempting and when the risk seems small. Gifting may open doors, but only character keeps authority clean. Competence can get you the mic. Character determines what comes out of your mouth when the lights are bright and the stakes are higher than your image. Say it out loud. Talent is a tool. Character is a foundation. The problem is not skill. The problem is skill without a soul. Competence without character is dangerous, because skill can build efficient systems that corruption will weaponize against the very people they were meant to protect. Are you hearing me? A clever mind without a clean heart will turn policy into profit, oversight into optics, enforcement into intimidation, and the budget into a buffet. The truth is, ungoverned brilliance becomes sophisticated oppression. You can have the best software for procurement, the smartest algorithm for taxes, the fastest courts with digitized queues, and still suffer if the hands at the controls love themselves more than they love justice. Write this down. Capacity without conscience creates captivity. Until you insist that character supervises competence, your nation will keep hiring geniuses to design cages. Let me expose the engine behind safe leadership, the hidden life principle. What you practice in private will legislate in public. What you tolerate in secret will eventually manifest in policy, in culture, in the DNA of your organization. If you lie to yourself in the mirror, you will lie to the nation in a press conference. If you steal minutes from your assignment, you will eventually steal money from your office. If you flirt with boundaries in the inbox, you will one day cross lines in the boardroom. Hear me, the private you is the real constitution. The unseen habits in your life are drafting bills your public will be forced to live under later. Until you understand that secrecy is not innocence, it is incubation, you will underestimate the harvest that small seeds of compromise are planting in your future. So let us diagnose you, not to shame you, but to secure those you are called to serve. How you handle money reveals whether your leadership is safe. Do you treat public funds as sacred or as convenient? Do you insist on receipted transactions, documented approvals, 2 signatures, reconciliations that are on time, and disclosures that are clear? Or do you travel with slush money, blur lines between personal and organizational expenses, and baptize indulgence as representation? Write it down. Stewardship is integrity with numbers. If your wallet is not sanctified, your policies will not be sanctified. Start with personal discipline, live within a budget, refuse hidden advances, pay your debts, file your taxes, publish transparent reports. If you cannot manage $100 without confession, do not ask God for 100 million with exemption. How you handle honor tests your immunity to idolatry. Do you inhale compliments as oxygen for your identity? Does your mood rise and fall with applause? Are you creating a culture where people must flatter to be favored? Safe leaders receive honor and pass it through to the one who owns the assignment. Safe leaders deflect celebrity because celebrity corrupts accountability. You are not the brand, you are a trustee. Titles do not make you bigger. They make your tower longer. The moment you start believing that access, escorts, and perks are proof of your worth, you have entered the trap. Say this with me. I am an example, not an exception. Write it down. If the security cordon protects you from truth, it is not security. It is a prison of praise preparing you for a fall. How you handle time is moral, not mechanical. Time is a trust. Lateness is theft. Procrastination is corruption of purpose. Do you keep your word on deadlines, or do people learn that your soon means never and your tomorrow means delay? Do meetings start when you arrive or when they were scheduled? Do you pad timelines to make space for laziness and then shout at staff to mask your planning failure? Safe leaders treat calendars as covenants. They show up because they said so. They finish because they promised. They rest because they are stewards of their strength, not martyrs seeking sympathy. Write this down. Punctuality is respect turned into minutes. Reliability is integrity turned into schedules. Until you master time, you will mismanage power. How you handle sexual purity will tell me whether your leadership can survive proximity. Power attracts and proximity intensifies temptation. Lust does not need an invitation. It only needs a lapse. So what are your boundaries? Do you meet privately with vulnerability behind closed doors without witnesses? Do you text at hours that do not honor dignity? Do you counsel without records, travel without chaperones, compliment beyond what is appropriate, confuse mentoring with intimacy? Listen carefully. Lust loves privacy. Holiness loves policy. Put fences in place, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Build rules that honor your marriage, protect the people, and keep your legacy untouchable. Write it down. Purity is policy before it is emergency. How you handle criticism reveals your capacity for growth. Do you punish feedback? Do you label every hard question as rebellion? Do you weaponize loyalty to silence necessary scrutiny? Or have you cultivated mentors authorized to say no to you, a board that is independent, minutes that capture dissent, audits that are welcome, and a habit of repentance when facts correct your narrative? Safe leaders are teachable leaders. They do not need to be right, they need to be righteous. They know that correction early prevents collapse later. Say it now. Correction is my friend. Flattery is my enemy. Until you surround yourself with truth tellers who love purpose more than your personality, you will drift into deception, safely applauded by fans you train to worship you. Let me anchor this where God designed leadership to rest. Leadership is not a gift you claim. It is a responsibility you carry. It is not a chair you sit in. It is a cross you pick up. Influence is stewardship under the king's ownership. That means you will answer not just for what you did, but for what you allowed, for what you rewarded, for the atmosphere you created, for the shortcuts you normalized, for the silence you preferred. Are you getting this? Stop bragging about your stage. Start building your soul. Stop campaigning for position. Start cultivating purity. Stop rehearsing speeches. Start rehearsing obedience. Write it down. The safest leaders are governed by character. So here is the call to secure your life, your assignment, your nation. Establish a personal constitution. I will not spend what I cannot explain. I will not receive what I cannot declare. I will not meet where I cannot be accountable. I will not promise what I cannot deliver. I will not appoint who I cannot review. I will not protect what God is exposing. Say it out loud until your bones memorize it. This is not legalism. This is love for the people you lead and reverence for the king you represent. When your private life is clean, your public authority becomes safe. When your character is settled, your leadership stops leaking. And when enough leaders are safe, systems breathe, policies work, and corruption has nowhere to hide. Now lift your eyes beyond your title and hear the next necessary question burning on the horizon, because nations do not change by accident, and clean leaders are not born, they are formed. How do we produce leaders, not just elect them? How do we grow character, not just celebrate talent? How do we build an ecosystem that rewards integrity more than image, stewardship more than show, obedience more than optics? Listen carefully, because where honor flows, culture learns, and what a nation rewards, a nation becomes. We are about to re-educate the future. Listen carefully, because I am about to expose the classroom you didn't know you enrolled in. You must understand this. A nation is educated by what it rewards. Write that down. Culture is a school without walls. Celebration is the syllabus. Awards are the exams. And the graduates are the habits we repeat until they become normal. The problem is not ignorance alone. The problem is that we have been brilliantly trained by the wrong prizes. The truth is, when a people clap for shortcuts, dance for deception, and fast-track fame without virtue, corruption stops being an accident and becomes an aspiration. Until you understand that rewards are not decorations, but directions, you will keep blaming the students while the teachers, media, money, parties, pulpits, and platforms preach a curriculum of compromise with confetti and hashtags. Honor is not a soft word. Honor is a governmental force. Honor is the public recognition of value, the intentional elevation of what the king calls good, the visible signal that tells children what greatness looks like and tells leaders what behavior will be remembered. Dishonor is not only insults. Dishonor is the climate where bribery feels clever, exploitation feels normal, and principle feels naive. When lying voices get microphones while truthful stewards get mocked as boring, that is dishonor legislating culture. When the biggest house in the village belongs to the man known for cutting corners, that mansion is a megaphone teaching the next generation a theology of theft. Are you hearing me? What you pay, post, promote, and permit is preaching. Say it out loud. Rewards are sermons. Let me bring it into your institutions, because corruption becomes culture where honor collapses into favoritism. When promotions are granted by proximity instead of performance, the best people withdraw and the worst people rise. When contracts are awarded by surname instead of standards, innovators stop competing and imitators start feeding. When platforms are given to the loudest loyalists instead of the wisest servant, organizations trade insight for echo chambers. Write this down. Favoritism is counterfeit honor. It looks like celebration, but it purchases compliance at the cost of competence. It looks like unity, but it manufactures silence where truth should speak. And once this becomes normal, excellence resigns, mediocrity multiplies, and a nation begins to rot from the head while smiling for the cameras. What then is the reset? We must build honor systems, not honor moments. Clapping in ceremonies is easy. Constructing criteria is worship. A principled culture encodes honor into its processes, so integrity is rewarded by design, not by whim. That means transparent criteria before selection, not after. Publish scoring rubrics that anyone can audit. Interview panels that are diversified and trained, not arranged in back rooms. Conflict of interest disclosure signed and enforced, not performed as paperwork theater. Procurement that is open, timed, and traceable with bids archived and reasons recorded. Performance reviews that are scheduled, standardized, and documented. Grievances that have channels, timelines, and protections. Are you getting this? Honor must be structural so that righteousness, justice, and truth are not guests at your event, but managers of your operations. Let me be practical, because culture shifts where systems speak consistently. Build public dashboards where agencies publish contract awards, selection scores, timelines, and deliverables in plain language. Establish integrity indices for departments and leaders that measure timeliness, transparency, restitution, and responsiveness. Publish them quarterly. Create whistleblower honors with legal protection and national gratitude, not secret punishments. Pay for information that saves public funds, and celebrate the courage that refuses bribes. Institute conflict of interest registers accessible to citizens and updated monthly disqualified decisions made under undisclosed ties. Tie bonuses to clean audits and on-time delivery, not to political loyalty. Celebrate frontline officials who refuse facilitation fees with visible awards and career acceleration. And do not only punish fraud, publicize restitution and reform, show the receipts, and let the nation learn from the consequence as much as from the applause. Write this down. If integrity is not profitable, it will not be popular. Until you make uprightness advantageous and deceit expensive, you will keep hiring speeches while training saboteurs. Parents, pastors, principals, producers, your micronations are workshops for the economy of honor. In homes, do not reward results born of cheating. Do not fund entitlement with silence. Do not teach your children that style excuses substance. In schools, award punctuality, diligence, collaboration, and courage to admit error, not only top marks after leaked exams. In churches, stop platforming donors without examining doctrine and life. Lift servant leaders who arrive early, keep their word, and love people when no one is watching. In businesses, stop promoting the highest sales personality who poisons culture. Honor the one who tells the truth about the pipeline, reports losses accurately, and keeps clients because trust is intact. In media, tell the full story. Who returned the bribe, who resigned for conflict of interest, who corrected a public mistake. Make integrity trending, not rare. Say it now. I will honor what I want multiplied. You may say, but we already honor excellence. No, you celebrate outcomes without verifying origins. Kingdom honor acts. How you got it matters as much as what you got. Did you meet timelines without crushing people? Did you keep policy without bending truth? Did you refuse gifts that would compromise judgment? Did you disclose relationships before decisions? Did you correct the report when you found error? This is why your ceremonies must shift from vanity to verification. Bring the criteria to the stage. Read the process. Show the audit trail. Teach the youth that honor is earned by alignment with principle, not purchased with proximity to power. Write it down. Ceremonies should catechize conscience. Now hear the bridge. Because systems alone cannot save you if citizens are stubborn students. Reward systems shape behavior both ways. Institutions teach by what they promote. Citizens teach by what they demand. If the people will not buy stolen goods, markets will stop selling them. If voters celebrate manifestos with measurable plans and retire slogans with sugar, parties will change their curriculum. If we throttle viewership when scandal is sold as entertainment, Networks will seek nobler stories. If congregations stop funding manipulation and start investing in discipleship, pulpits will adjust their content. Are you listening? The economy of honor is a loop. Leaders set the signals, citizens supply the demand, and together we build the moral price tag of everything. Until you convert your applause into accountability and your purchases into principles, you will keep asking Pharaoh for freedom while renting his chains. So let us vow today to restructure honor at the root. Say it with me. I will not envy what I cannot explain. I will not celebrate what I cannot verify. I will not reward what I would regret reproducing in my children. Write that down. Decide as a board, as a cabinet, as a council, as a family. No envelope can buy our praise. No pressure can bend our criteria. No popularity can excuse our process. Establish review calendars and stick to them. Rotate sensitive roles to prevent capture. Publish minutes that record dissent. Create safe channels for truth to surface without fear. Measure what matters and let compensation follow character. Do this consistently, loudly, predictably, and watch what happens. Predators lose interest, producers regain courage, and your institutions begin to harvest the leaders your principles design. This is how a nation is re-educated, by turning honor from a speech into a system, from a mood into a metric, from a gift to the powerful into a God for the powerless. The king is not impressed by ceremonies that perfume corruption. He is pleased when your rewards tell the truth. Fix the economy of honor, and you will teach your citizens to love what he loves and hate what he hates. And as you do, we will be ready for the next necessary confrontation. Because you cannot protest what you practice, and you cannot heal a nation while funding its disease in private. Prepare your heart, align your habits, adjust your applause. We are discipling a culture, one reward at a time. Now let us turn the light toward your own heart. Because culture is what a crowd does repeatedly. And a crowd is only a collection of individuals practicing their private convictions in public. Listen carefully. You cannot protest what you practice. Write that down. A nation is not first corrupted by parliaments and palaces. A nation is first corrupted by kitchens and cubicles, by back seats and boardrooms, by the quiet places where you decide to be the exception to the very principle you demand from your leaders. The problem is not that the government is wicked and the people are innocent. The problem is that national corruption is often the expansion of personal corruption, small dishonesty, quiet shortcuts, private compromises scaled up by power and multiplied by systems. The truth is, the state is a mirror. It reflects the morality of its citizens. Until you understand that your daily decisions are constitutional acts, you will shout against tyrants while training one in your own soul. Citizenship in a kingdom is not passive residency. It is active alignment. You don't just complain about government, you embody government. You enforce the Constitution by the way you think, the words you speak, the money you manage, the process you respect, the truth you refuse to bend when it's inconvenient. Say it. I am a citizen of heaven. Say it again. I carry the culture of the king. Say it stronger. I will not trade my integrity for advantage. Write it down. Kingdom citizenship is the government of God ruling your private world so that your public world cannot be bribed. If you cannot govern your appetite, you will sell your vote. If you cannot govern your ego, you will sell your voice. If you cannot govern your schedule, you will sell your promises. Government was God's idea, and his first jurisdiction is you. Bring it into the ordinary, because integrity is not born on inauguration day. It is formed on errand day. Do you pay taxes honestly, or do you celebrate clever underreporting as financial wisdom? If you hide income in cash because everybody does it, you are rehearsing the very theft you condemn in the treasury. Do you ask for receipts that tell the truth, or do you prefer envelopes that tell a story? If you slide facilitation fees to skip the line at the licensing office, do not weep when ministers run nations with the same spirit. Are you getting this? When you bribe a traffic officer with coffee, you advance the syllabus of corruption and then pretend to be shocked at the final exam. What about business? Do you inflate invoices to skim thank yous? Delay payments to starve vendors while posting profits to impress investors? Or award contracts to cousins under the fog of urgent procurement? Write this down. Favoritism at home becomes fraud in the house of power. Honesty is not a speech, it is an accounting system. Build clean ledgers. Sign what you have read. Refuse conflicts you cannot disclose. Insist on terms you can defend in the light. And if a deal dies because you would not contaminate your conscience, let it die. Delay is cheaper than a dirty destiny. Exams and education, let's go there. Parents, when you pay for leaked papers or pressure teachers to make a plan, you are financing a future surgeon with a counterfeit competence and a conscience trained to normalize shortcuts. Students, when you copy assignments and plagiarize research while praying for favor, you are training your soul to value outcomes over origins. God's favor is not a permit for fraud. Say it out loud. I will not succeed by sin. Write it down. Excellence without ethics is an accident waiting to be hired. Church finance, yes, the sanctuary must be cleaner than the Senate. Do you count offerings with 2 sets of eyes and 2 signatures? Do you publish reports with clarity? Do you separate personal gift from institutional budget? If you call envelopes blessings to hide what cannot be explained, you are discipling thieves with hymns. Holiness loves transparency. If you love your church, protect it with policy. Because the devil does not need to burn a building he can buy with silence. Relationships test your constitution more than positions do. Do you keep your vows when they are not convenient? Do you flatter to get access, manipulate to get affection, promise what your discipline cannot deliver? Political deception begins as romantic dishonesty. If your yes and your no are negotiable in love, they will be negotiable in leadership. Write it down. Fidelity is governance of desire. If you cannot keep covenant with one person, you are a risk to many. And time is money that does not refund. If you steal hours from your employer with scrolling, if you bill for work not done, if you confuse busyness with productivity, you are adopting the same math that bankrupts nations. Calendars are constitutions written in minutes. Keep them as sacred. Let me strike the root. Prayer is not a substitute for principle. Fasting cannot cover stolen funds. Tongues cannot launder lies. Prophetic declarations cannot baptize shortcuts. God receives worship from clean hands and a pure heart, not from performances that perfume corruption. You are praying for national deliverance while personally choosing a different king every time convenience calls. Are you hearing me? Repentance is not tears alone. Repentance is a change of policy in your private government. So what does a governed citizen look like? Say it with me and write it on the walls of your life. I will not slip cash to skip process. I will not sign what I did not read. I will not ask favors to dodge due process. I will not post lies to win arguments. I will not buy stolen goods and then blame the market. I will not cheat in class and then criticize incompetent officials. I will not take a bribe to hurt a stranger and then pray for national protection. Say it again. I am an example, not an exception. When you live like this, you become a living law, salt that slows decay, light that exposes the cockroaches of compromise, a walking constitution that teaches without a microphone. But won't this cost you? Yes, righteousness often charges a fee at the front door and pays a fortune at the back. You may lose speed, but you will gain safety. You may lose a contract, but you will keep a crown. You may stand longer in the line, but you will sleep with a clear conscience and wake with authority. The king sees, weighs, and rewards. He promotes governed people not because they are loud, but because they are lawful in their souls. When enough citizens fear God more than missing out, streets start to feel different, schools start to learn differently, businesses start to negotiate differently, and leaders feel the pressure of a populace that cannot be bought. Now hear the bridge, because personal righteousness is not isolation, it becomes influence. Clean hearts create clean habitats. Your home policies will become office policies when you are hired. Your budgeting habits will become departmental discipline when you are promoted. Your insistence on receipts will become institutional reform when you sit on a board. Your refusal to bribe will pioneer new cues where transparency replaces connections. This is how the seed becomes a system. The constitution in your conscience grows roots into procedures, blossoms into protocols, and bears fruit as public trust. You are not merely surviving a corrupt age. You are prototyping the future in miniature. Lift your voice one more time. I am a citizen of heaven. I carry the culture of the king. I will not trade my integrity for advantage. Write it down and live it out. Because the next move is strategic. We are about to take the seeds of your personal governance and plant them into institutions without losing your soul. If you can be faithful in private, you are ready to build in public. From your kitchen table to the council table, from errand day to inauguration day, we are moving from clean hands to clean systems, from holy habits to national architecture. Prepare your life, sharpen your conscience, steady your courage. The king is looking for builders whose blueprints are written on their hearts. Now we plant what you have been carrying. The seed in your conscience must become a system in your context, because nations are not fed by intentions, they are fed by outcomes. Ideas are seeds, but a city eats fruit policies that function, processes that deliver, classrooms that learn, clinics that heal, budgets that arrive where they were sent, and justice that shows up on time. Listen carefully. Kingdom reform is not only shouting at the darkness, it is switching on lights that can be replicated in every room. Write this down. Models before megaphones. You must produce something that works, then multiply it until it becomes culture. Be fruitful. Start there. Fruit is not talk. Fruit is a product. In governance, fruit looks like one department cleaned up and running with predictability, one procurement unit with verifiable bids and traceable deliveries, one school board with transparent grading, timely term calendars, and a published code of conduct enforced without favorites, one community program with attendance tracked, budgets reconciled, and impact measured. Where do you begin? With what you can control. Your desk, your team of 5, your PTA committee, your clinic shift, your village council, your startup board. Ask this question right now. What problem will my domain no longer tolerate after this month? Then define the process, document the steps, assign the roles, set the timelines, clarify the criteria, and build a simple dashboard. Fruit is a form you can hold, a policy manual everyone understands, a service level agreement that the public can expect, a calendar that doesn't move when cousins call. Produce, then prove. Say it out loud. I will produce fruit that functions. Multiply. After fruit, replication. The mistake of many righteous people is that they stop at excellence and never graduate to scalability. If integrity remains a private virtue, corruption will always outnumber it. The truth is, multiplication requires manuals, templates, and training, not just inspiration. Write this down. Reproducibility is the evidence of principle. Take the clean process and codify it. Create one-page standard operating procedures, flowcharts on the wall, checklists at each desk, quick start videos for new hires, and a shared repository accessible to all. Then run a pilot in a second unit to prove it's not personality dependent. If it only works when you are in the room, it is not a system, it's a performance. Host monthly clinics where practitioners from other departments come and learn, watch live demos, and leave with toolkits. Require that every improvement be simple enough to be taught in 15 minutes and strong enough to survive without your charisma. Multiply the model, not the speeches. Replenish. Now we talk about pipelines, because corruption thrives where succession is an ambush. If you don't build people, your progress will age out. Kingdom strategy says, replenish the earth, stock the territory with stewards who know both the what and the why. Mentor deliberately. Pair every experienced officer with an apprentice who shadows meetings, learns the paper trail, and practices the decision logic under supervision. Create rotations for sensitive roles every 18 to 24 months to prevent capture and to force cross-pollination of best practices. Establish internship tracks where students learn ethical procurement, transparent budgeting, data integrity, and community engagement as part of their curriculum, not as an afterthought. Create a leadership pipeline where promotions require not just tenure, but tested judgment and a clean integrity index. Are you hearing me? A righteous system is a garden of people, not a shrine to one hero. Until you train successors, you are grooming a crisis. Subdue. Bring chaos under order, not with suspicion, but with wisdom. Kingdom order accepts human nature and designs guardrails because love tells the truth about weakness. Authority without checks is temptation. Process without audits is presumption. Document decisions before disputes. Separate duties. Those who request do not approve. Those who approve do not reconcile. Those who reconcile do not audit. Publish meeting minutes that include dissenting views to protect truth tellers and record reasoning. Institute conflict of interest declarations before each decision, not as dusty forms hidden in drawers. Require 3 competitive quotes with timestamps. Reconcile cash daily with dual signatures. Use open data portals where awarded contracts, project timelines, budgets, and outcomes are posted in plain language. Protect whistleblowers in law and honor them in culture. Ask yourself right now, do you trust yourself enough to be checked? Write this down. Accountability is not mistrust. It is humility institutionalized. Order does not slow destiny. It preserves it. Have dominion. This is not about bullying. It is about mastery. Dominion comes to those who are so excellent in their domain that their work becomes the reference. If you are assigned to law, become the attorney whose files are immaculate, whose arguments are grounded in precedent and principle, and who can design policy that closes loopholes instead of creating them. If you are in finance, read budgets like a map, know accruals, understand procurement law, build models that forecast risk, and teach teams how to steward resources with precision. If you are in education, master curricula, assessment, and pastoral care, learn how to build literate, ethical citizens, not just exam machines. If you are in technology, secure systems, automate transparency, design user flows that make honesty the easiest path. If media is your lane, own investigative rigor and story integrity. Turn truth into content that crowds cannot ignore. Dominion is credibility deployed for the king. Say it now. I will master my domain so principle can travel on my competence. Let me paint it for your imagination. Imagine a licensing office where bribes used to choose the queue. You arrive and see a simple digital ticketing system showing estimated wait times. Walls display the step-by-step process with fees, documents required, and service level targets. Each desk has a visible checklist for officers to follow. Payments are cashless, receipts are immediate, and reconciliations are posted weekly on a public board. A suggestion box is not a joke. It is scanned and logged with responses in 10 working days. An integrity champion meets citizens at 10 a.m. daily to answer questions. Monthly, the office publishes its numbers. Applications received, processed on time, returned for corrections, appeals granted, an officer reassignment where patterns reveal pressure points. What happens? The bribe market collapses because the darkness has nowhere to hide. Order has subdued chaos. Picture a school that decides to be fruitful. They design a code of conduct with clear consequences and restorative support. Teachers sign lesson plans weekly. Parents receive a dashboard with attendance, assignments, submission, and behavior notes. Peer tutoring is structured. Exam integrity is protected by randomized seating and sealed papers. Cheating rates plunge, literacy rises, and graduates emerge confident and honest. Then they multiply 3 more schools, adopt the model using the same playbook and coaching calls. They replenish training prefects, teacher leaders, and incoming principals through a summer institute. They subdue audits every term, classroom observations, parent councils with voting records and recorded minutes. Finally, they gain dominion. The regional ministry adopts their model as the standard because excellence is irresistible. Are you getting this? Righteousness has receipts. Now be practical with me. You must measure what you intend to manage. Establish a few metrics that tell the moral truth. Timeliness, percentages, error rates corrected, variance between budgeted and actual spending, citizen satisfaction verified by randomized calls, cases of reported conflicts disclosed before decisions, and restitution where mistakes cost the public. Put the numbers on a wall. Look at them weekly. Pray over them, yes, but also improve them. Prayer without procedure is presumption. Procedure without prayer is pride. We need both wind and wings. Some of you are asking, where do I even start? Start with a one-page constitution for your domain. The purpose you serve, the values you will not violate, the processes you will follow, the transparency you will practice, the metrics you will measure, and the consequences you will enforce. Convene your team. Repent for vagueness. Assign roles. Set review dates. Schedule a weekly integrity hour where you do nothing but reconcile, document, and address red flags. Teach every newcomer the why before the what. And when resistance rises, and if you remember, systems outlast storms. You are not fighting people. You are displacing patterns. Write this down. Consistency is the hammer that breaks corruption's habit. Listen, your destiny is not to be a professional critic. Your assignment is to be a constructor. The king is looking for builders whose blueprints are principles and whose materials are policies, procedures, and people shaped by truth. Say it with me. I will be fruitful, produce something that works. I will multiply, replicate righteousness. I will replenish, build a pipeline of principled people. I will subdue, establish order that protects the future. I will have dominion, master my field, so truth can travel on my excellence. Say it again. Until your mind believes it. This is how the seed becomes a system, and the system becomes a standard. When enough of you produce models that multiply, replenish, subdue, and dominate, nations will not just hear sermons, they will live inside them. Now go to your station, open your notebook, gather your team, and begin. The future is waiting for fruit. Listen carefully, because we are at the turning point where revelation becomes responsibility. We have shown you how seeds grow into systems. But hear this central truth. The solution to national decay is not merely replacing leaders, it is restoring principles. Write that down. Different people with the same missing principles produce the same corruption. The problem is not just the faces at the top. The problem is the foundation under everyone's feet. The truth is, when a nation forgets the constitution of heaven, delegated authority, accountability, righteousness, justice, and truth, it doesn't gradually decline. It disintegrates in slow motion. Until you understand that principles are stronger than personalities, you will waste your energy campaigning for change while leaving the disease untreated. God is not interested in musical chairs. He is interested in constitutional repair. Government was God's idea before it became man's industry. And he is restoring government the same way he launched it, through governed people. Not perfect people, governed people. People who have submitted their private world to the king's rule. People whose appetites are not their masters. Whose ambitions are not their gods. Whose emotions are not their policymakers. Write this down. Self-government is the first jurisdiction of the kingdom. The Holy Spirit is not a performance enhancer. He is the governor within, forming the constitution of Christ in your mind, your motives, your methods, and your money. Discipline is your daily legislation. Prayer is your cabinet meeting. Scripture is your charter. Accountability is your court of appeal. And obedience is your enforcement arm. Are you hearing me? If you cannot govern yourself by the Spirit, do not expect to govern systems by strategy. Authority without inner accountability is a setup for public failure. You must understand this. God does not send ungoverned people to reform governments. He anoints trustworthy souls to carry trustworthy power. This means your morning routine is not trivial, it is governmental. Wake with purpose, meet with the King, align your calendar to your assignment, and submit your day to scrutiny before you submit it to speed. Build rhythms that outlast moods. Pray when you don't feel like it. Read when you think you already know it. Fast when appetite protests. Confess when pride wants a lawyer. And invite inspection where secrecy wants shadows. Listen, accountability is not suspicion. It is wisdom loving you in practical form. Give trusted people permission to ask you anything about your decisions, your numbers, your browser, your time. Holiness grows where hiding dies. Now reposition your identity, because some of you still think your calling is to survive your country. That is too small. You were not born to endure a nation. You were born to serve a nation. The gift in you is not a hobby. It is an answer to a need God allowed you to see. Purpose births conviction. Conviction gives rise to vision. Vision ignites passion. Passion inspires others. Uninspired people follow. This is leadership. Stop waiting for a title to validate your influence. Begin with the question, whose pain am I designed to solve, and where has God given me jurisdiction to act? The corner you clean becomes your classroom. The office you reform becomes your sanctuary. The policy you write becomes your pulpit. Say it out loud. I am assigned to my nation. Write it down. Every problem is an assignment disguised as frustration. Hear the prophetic age now. When righteousness is rejected, nations shake, markets tremble, trust evaporates, institutions wear a smile with rottenness beneath. God will judge systems that devour the poor, ignore widows, weaponize power, and celebrate lies. But do not despair, because when righteousness is practiced, nations stabilize. Truth is ballast. Justice is architecture. Integrity is infrastructure. And mercy is the oil that keeps the machinery from grinding souls into dust. The King is not wringing his hands. He is raising reformers. Even now, he is calling carpenters of conscience from universities, pastors of policy from offices, prophets with spreadsheets, intercessors with dashboards, teachers with blueprints, and entrepreneurs with ethics that cannot be bought. He shakes what can be shaken so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Are you getting this? If the shaking has come to your field, do not run, build what lasts. This is the moment to rebuild your inner government with seriousness. Establish a personal rule of life. Fixed hours for prayer. Non-negotiable time in the Word. Weekly confession and counsel with a mature mentor. Monthly reconciliation of your finances with honesty. Quarterly retreats to recalibrate vision. Guard your inputs. Curate your friendships. Turn your devices into servants, not lords, and set alarms that remind you who you are when pressure demands a shortcut. Write this down. Destiny is protected by disciplines you practice when no one is watching. Train your soul to love truth, and your hands will naturally build systems that tell the truth. Let me tie it back to our royal mandate, because the pattern has not changed. Be fruitful. Produce one work of order others can see. Multiply, package it so others can do it. Replenish, train a pipeline of principled people. Subdue design, checks that outlive your charisma. Have dominion, master your lane until excellence becomes your address. Say it again so your mind surrenders. I will be fruitful. I will multiply. I will replenish. I will subdue. I will have dominion. This is not poetry. This is policy for your life and your leadership. The truth is, heaven's strategy has always been ambassadors, not mere activists. Activists shout at problems. Ambassadors embody solutions. You are not spectators in the gallery of national drama. You are carriers of a kingdom that cannot be voted in or out. Until you understand that your office is an embassy, your business a consulate, your home a training academy, your words diplomatic cables from the king, you will underestimate your reach and negotiate your standards. But I declare over your mind right now, no more small thinking, no more borrowed convictions, no more rented integrity. You are a representative of a government where truth sits on the throne, justice guards the gates, and righteousness builds the streets. So lift your head where you are and receive this as a divine summons. You are being shifted from attendance to assignment, from hearing to heralding, from learning to legislating by wisdom in your sphere. The King is restoring government through governed people, and he is counting on you to be one of them. Clean your hands, clear your conscience, steady your courage, sharpen your competence, and prepare your house. Because the next voice you hear will not just be teaching, it will be commissioning. You will be sent as an ambassador with a covenant, a code, and a cause. Say it with conviction. I am governed by the King. I am trusted with influence. I am sent to build. And as you step into this, remember, principles are stronger than personalities, and the government within you will create the government around you. Listen carefully. Because this is the moment where your revelation becomes a covenant, where your inspiration becomes legislation over your own life. You are not stepping into a trend. You are stepping under a constitution. Here is the covenant. And I want you to own it, not as a slogan, but as a standard. I refuse bribes and shortcuts. My integrity is not for sale at any price, under any pressure, with any excuse. I will practice transparent stewardship. Every resource I touch will be tracked, reconciled, reported, and returned to purpose. I will hide nothing in the dark that cannot stand in the light. I will honor truth in my speech. I will not falsify numbers, flatter for favor, or sign what I know is wrong. My words will be clean enough to be minutes. I will submit to accountability. I give permission to be questioned, audited, reviewed, and corrected. I choose checks and balances because I love my assignment. I will correct wrongdoing with courage. If it is broken, I will not bless it. If it is crooked, I will not camouflage it. I will confront in love, document in truth, and repair with urgency. I will serve the vulnerable. I will remember the widow, the orphan, the poor, the voiceless in my decisions. Policy without compassion is a machine without oil. I will pursue excellence in my domain. Sloppy work is silent corruption. I will master my craft until my results preach righteousness without a microphone. Write this down. This is my covenant. Clean hands, clear conscience, courageous action. Are you getting this? Until you covenant, you will negotiate. But when you covenant, you legislate your future. Now let me lay a 30-day rhythm that turns conviction into continuity. Because destiny is guarded by routines, not by moods. Daily, open the scriptures and feed your mind on righteousness, justice, and truth. Proverbs that instruct the tongue, Psalms that train the heart, prophets that rebuke the lie, teachings that form the way. 10 minutes minimum, underlining a principle you will practice before lunch. Write this down. 1 verse obeyed is better than 10 chapters admired. Weekly, conduct an integrity audit, set a fixed hour the same day every week, reconcile your accounts, review your calendar for promises kept and promises delayed, examine approvals you gave, check conflicts disclosed, and repent fast where drift began. Close with one corrective action you will complete in 48 hours. Identify one system to improve this month. Choose a process within your reach. Procurement forms, attendance tracking, case indexing, appointment scheduling, inventory control, or data validation. Map it, simplify it, assign it, measure it, and publish the standard on a wall for your team to see. Find an accountability partner, someone who fears God more than they fear you. Set a 30-minute weekly meeting. Share numbers, not narratives. Agree on consequences for missed standards. And sign a mutual covenant that your destiny is more important than your comfort. Mentor one emerging leader. Select a teachable person. Meet weekly. Explain the why behind the what. Assign real responsibilities with measurable outcomes. Review their work in the open and celebrate integrity more loudly than talent. Listen, if you do these 5 for 30 days, the groove of governance will form in your soul and systems of light will begin to scale out of your life. Now seal it with your mouth because your mind listens to your tongue. Say it. My integrity is my seed. Say it again. My integrity is my seed and I will plant it daily. Say it. My discipline is my protection. My routines will guard what my dreams began. Say it. My purpose is my assignment. I am not wandering, I am sent. Say it. I will represent the king in my territory. I will carry his character into every decision. Declare this over your appetite. I will not sell my birthright for a bowl of convenience. Declare this over your influence. I will love the light more than I love applause. Declare this over your career. I will build what outlives me. I will design systems that outlast my name. Write this down and say it till it sticks. Clean hands, clear conscience, courageous action. Now lift your heart as I pray over you, because covenants are sealed in the presence of the King. Father, righteous King and Lord of all nations, we present our hands for washing, our minds for renewing, our hearts for purifying, and our assignments for your approval. Breathe upon these men and women courage that does not blink before pressure, purity that does not bargain with shadows, wisdom that discerns deception from a distance, and strategic intelligence to build systems of light in dark places. Give them the spirit of excellence that makes righteousness attractive. Grant them favor with gatekeepers who love truth and boldness before tyrants who despise it. Raise principal leaders from this company, govern souls who can be trusted with power. Restore trust in our institutions through truth practiced publicly and privately. Close every door that leads to compromise, and open doors that lead to influence without contamination. Protect their families. Secure their finances in honesty. Surround them with loyal truth tellers, and make their work a testimony that the kingdom has come near. And when they are tested, and they will be tested, anchor them so deeply in your character that storms reveal their roots instead of their ruins. We ask this in the authority of the King, whose throne is established in righteousness and justice. Amen. Hear me as we close with vision. When principles return, stability returns. When truth is enthroned, fear goes silent. When justice walks the streets, trust comes back to the marketplace. When righteousness is practiced behind the desk and at the gate, the widow sleeps, the child studies, the merchant plans, the judge decides, and the future stops trembling. The problem is not the complexity of nations. The problem is the vacancy of character. The truth is, a nation is only as strong as the righteousness of the people who carry its authority. Fathers and mothers, teachers and treasurers, officers and clerks, pastors and planners, coders and counselors. That is you. So I commission you now. Go as ambassadors of the King. Govern yourself. Steward your station. Reform your system. Protect the vulnerable. Publish the truth. Submit to checks. Refuse the bribe. Pursue excellence until excellence has your name on it. Clean hands. Clear conscience. Courageous action. This is your covenant. This is your calling. And this is how the government within you will create the government around you. Now go and build until stability returns.